Self-defense laws vary widely throughout the world, which is why I picked home invasion laws in Spain and Texas to examine and compare. I will talk you through a comparison between the laws in the case of unlawful entry into a private residence, highlighting the objective similarities, key differences, and penalties for non-compliance. Spain's self-defense provisions are outlined in the Spanish Código Penal. Self-defense is justified when there is necessity of means. The defensive action must be necessary to prevent or repel the aggression. Lack of provocation. The defender must not have provoked the aggressor. Use of deadly force. Heavily restricted and a situation of life or death must be shown. Texas self-defense law. Date and source. Outlined in the Texas statutes, particularly in Chapter 9, Sections 9.31 and 9.32. Use of deadly force. It's permitted if the person reasonably believes it is necessary to protect against another's use or attempt use of unlawful deadly force. Now, as for the similarities and differences, both jurisdictions recognize the right to self-defense against unlawful aggression. Both systems focus on proportionality, but said proportionality is very different from each interpretation. The key differences are duty to retreat. Spain generally imposes a duty to retreat, making individuals avoid confrontation if safety is possible. In contrast, Texas follows the stand your ground principle, allowing individuals to use force without retreating if they are in a place they have a right to be. Scope of deadly force. Texas law and Spanish law both follow the principle that the deadly force must be proportional to the threat, but go on about it in different ways. In Spain, the mere act of entering someone's home illegally is not seen as threatening in any way that constitutes the use of any force, even if there is someone inside the house. But in Texas, illegally entering someone's home is automatically seen as a threat to their life and lethal force is permitted. Penalties for non-compliance are: in Spain, the excessive use of force beyond what is deemed necessary can lead to criminal charges, including assault or homicide, depending on the outcome. Penalties may vary based on the severity of the offense and can range from fines to imprisonment. For example, shooting someone if they are just broken in without posing any threat could constitute homicide. Meanwhile, in Texas, if the use of force is deemed unjustified, individuals can face charges such as assault, manslaughter, or murder. Penalties are severe, with potential long-term imprisonment or even capital punishment, which depends on the circumstances. For example, shooting someone who is just trespassing and has their back turned would constitute murder, since they have not broken into a private residence with someone inside. Duty to retreat. In Spain, there is a duty to retreat when possible. So if you can, you need to go out of a back door or lock yourself in a room when there's an intruder. Whereas in Texas, there is no duty to retreat and you can choose to face the intruder to protect you and your assets, even if you have a clear means to escape. Conclusion. In summary, while both Spain and Texas recognize the right to a degree of proportionality in self-defense, the interpretation is basically a polar opposite. Spain emphasizes a duty to retreat and much more strictly states that proportionality when someone enters your home is not considered violent, and the use of force is just illegal, and it requires individuals to avoid confrontations at all costs, and ensuring that the defensive response matches the threat level with the belief the break-in itself is not a threat. Whereas Texas adopts a more permissive stance with its stand your ground law and castle doctrine, allowing individuals to use lethal force without the obligation to retreat when facing with a threat, especially if it has broken into their house. Now, in my opinion, neither of these systems are ideal. Texas goes way off the deep end with immediately being able to shoot someone when they break into your house, which, mind you, still counts if the door is unlocked and they just walk in. Meanwhile, Spain gives way too much rights in the intruder, with breaking in being treated as a non-threat. You cannot retaliate with force. In my opinion, there should be a compromise leaning in the direction of the Spanish system. Firstly, I feel like the act of breaking in should be seen as a threat, with the use of force permitted one level above what the intruder has. What I mean is by this is, for example, if someone breaks in and has not shown aggressiveness towards you, you can still enact an armed force on them, as the act of breaking in is inherently threatening. Now, if they do show aggressive behavior and are unarmed, I feel like you should be legitimized in using blunt force objects, such as a kosh, a baseball bat, or a golf club. So that would be one level above what they have, which is being unarmed. And if they have a knife, I feel like you should be permitted to use any deadly weapon or deadly force that you legally are that you legally own. For example, a gun with if you have a license, a machete or an axe perhaps. I feel like the duty to retreat should not be there. If you own a property, pay taxes on said property, you should have the right to defend said property and the assets stored there. People still can retreat, they have the possibility if they want to. They're not forced to just abandon everything to be taken and have the right to use one level above of the force. So, in this scenario, the duty to retreat isn't as necessary, as it doesn't put them in such a danger as they are now, with just being unable to defend themselves until they see a threat. The no provocation of the intruder seems absolutely ludicrous to me. You're telling me that I cannot provoke someone who has broken into my property while I'm still inside, and them breaking in isn't a problem, isn't a provocation. It doesn't make much sense. I feel like if anything were to be changed about Spain's self-defense laws, that part should just be removed, since to me at least that sounds completely unjust and gives way too many rights and excuses to the home invader. Thank you for your attention.